Mon micro. Bonsoir tout le monde, bienvenue
Good
à cette
evening, everyone, and welcome to this regular meeting of Council on November the 8th. To begin, we'll proceed with the opening words. Dear colleagues, let's have the serenity to accept the things we can change, the courage to change the things we can, and the wisdom to know the difference. The meeting is called to order. We have a quorum. All members are present, including Mr. Lantang is absent. Okay. Is there any conflict of interest to be declared? None to be reported. Let's continue. The adoption of the agenda. I would need a motion to add one item to the agenda moved by Councillor Thibodeau, seconded by Councillor Leboutillier, that we add item 10.1.3 concerning the evidence of vaccination for the people in the council chambers. Is there any question on that? If not, all those in favor say aye. Contrary minded, nay. Carried. That resolution was added to 10.1.3 for your information. So, presentation, inquiries, and petition. Excuse me.
une seconde que je me retrouve ici.
1 minute, please. The first group to make a presentation, Monsieur Melançon. Mr. Gillette from the Kodiak Regional RCMP, if there's any inquiries by the council members. Mr. Gillette, good evening. Welcome once again to the Municipal Council. I know you're quite active, quite busy. Every 2 weeks, I await my presence here with impatience. I've come often and I've made report on different things. I'll continue to do that. I will only change a few things. I didn't talk very often about our team of reduction of credibility. It's 10 police officers in Kodiak who are not in uniform, they're undercover, and they focus on those who commit more harm. I will give you what I can report, what they did, and whatnot. That and also safety in general. As I said, we've had the commitment from the tactic traffic team that will come every month to work in Greater Moncton. Will focus, target each places that have problems and where we receive complaints. There's one this week, and I've discussed with some counselors about that. We will put some emphasis on one area that is problematic. I can't wait to see the results for that one. So I encourage all those listening to be careful at all time on the road, but slow down, please, and respect all the direction either by the police or elsewhere. The team of reduction of criminality, there's three things I can talk about. The first one is theft and catalytic that are a great problem. That's one of the three priorities on which they work, and they are under surveillance or and the request for intelligence. We are working very hard to try and catch the people who are involved in those theft. Another individual you may have seen in the media that we stop certain person for theft or whatever it is. and there was a serious accident in Moncton. There's another individual who is causing a lot of damage. We put some emphasis on those people. When they may come where the people we're looking for, we will put them on the media to place a face and a name that will help, and that people will tell us we know where he's hiding. That's something we're trying to develop. Use social media more in that sense. And also, that team is working on search warrant for those who are involved in drug trafficking some places in the that's what they're working on. We see an everyday police in uniform, but we don't see all these people in undercover, and they work, and these are priorities. Thank you very much. Any inquiries, any questions from the councillors? Monsieur Brideau? Thank you, Worship. Thank you, Monsieur Gillette, for your presentation. One detail that I want to add to what you said, I want to welcome the day where we see a photograph, whether it's theft, murder, shooting, whatever. During the winter, we were going to the States, and you see that in newspapers. Uh, a person who's involved either accidents or criminal offense, the photograph is right there in the paper. And I was talking to friends from New Brunswick. When will we be able to see that at home? So people will see who are these people who commit those crimes. Thank you, Monsieur Jet.
C'est tout. Autre
That's all.
question?
Other question from the counselors?
Non? Alors,
No,
vous êtes libre de
you are
partir ou de
free to
rester au
leave
bureau
or
et
to
on
stay.
verra si vous avez
We
décidé
will
de rester.
understand if you decide to leave.
Très bien compris. Puis merci
It
encore
will be
pour
well understood,
votre
and
effort
thank you
de
well
lutte contre
once again for your
le gaspillage
efforts.
musical. Merci.
Thank
Nous
you.
apprécions beaucoup.
We appreciate that very much.
Et prochaine présentation,
Next presentation
l'item 7.2 concernant les
7.2
avantages de
concerning the
poules.
backyard chicken
C'est
keeping.
Madame ou Mademoiselle Geneviève Brooks
Ms. Geneviève
qui
Brooks,
va présenter.
who will make the presentation to the council. Ms. Brooks.
Faudra peut-être baisser un peu le microphone parce
Maybe
que
we'll have to lower
tu
the
peux enlever ton,
microphones.
ton masque le temps que tu parles.
You can remove your mask while you're talking.
Voilà.
There.
Bonjour, mon nom c'est
Hello,
Geneviève
my
Brooks.
name is
J'ai
Geneviève
12 ans
Brooks.
et je
I'm
suis
12
une
years
fière
old.
citoyenne de
I'm
Dieppe.
a proud citizen of Dieppe.
Je rêve d'être une artiste à l'avenir
I want to be an
et
artist in the
c'est mon
future,
honneur d'être ici.
and it's my honor to be here
Je vous
tonight
demander
and to ask you,
de, de vous demander
to ask you
d'avoir des poules à Dieppe.
to allow to have chicken in
Les
Dieppe.
aspects positifs
I have
d'avoir des
all
poules à Dieppe
kinds of
ainsi que
positive
mes
aspect to
expériences
have
avec
chicken
mes
in Dieppe. I've
cousines
had
et
experience with
leurs
some
enfants.
cousins
Un des aspects
in life.
positifs,
One of the
c'est
positive aspect
d'engager les enfants dehors.
is to
Dernièrement, les
hire
parents
people
sont
outside.
dans une
Lately,
salle
our
tout seuls avec des
generation
technologies
is in a room
vidéo
playing with
et on
electronic
essaie de les
video
engager.
while we try to engage
Ce
them.
sont des animaux qui préfèrent
Chicken are
travailler
animals
dehors
that prefer to be outside
et qui montrent un bon exemple
and
à
would
la
show a
prochaine
good
génération
example to
d'être
the
inquiète.
next
Un autre raison
generation to do the same thing.
c'est
Another
avec
positive
l'industrie d'œufs.
element
Beaucoup de parents
is
aiment manger
because of the eggs industry.
des
Everybody
embryons
likes
d'œufs. Ils
uh,
savent d'où ils
to
viennent.
eat eggs, but
Les
most people
industries
don't know where they come
peuvent
from.
être super cruelles et super violentes
Uh,
envers les poules
they
pour
have
leur
cruelties
permettre
against
de
the
s'entraîner.
chicken
Si
for
par
the
exemple on
meat.
peut élever
If
des
we
poules
show
à
that
Dieppe
we can raise chicken in the app
et cultiver leurs œufs
and
correctement
cultivate
dans de bonnes
the eggs
conditions,
and the
on
meat in
risque
a proper
d'encourager
way
la vie
by
et non la
using
violence.
this cycle
Ce
of
serait une
life
manière
instead of
aussi
violence,
plus
that
bonne pour
would
montrer
be
aux
a better
industriels
way to
comment
show
faire.
the people how to do better.
Une chose qui aiderait beaucoup à avoir des poules à
One
la
thing
maison,
that would
c'est
help a
d'avoir
lot to have chicken in the app,
quoi qui se passe
it
jusqu'à là avec notre pandémie
shows
et
what is happening
circuit
with that
breaker.
pandemic and
Beaucoup de personnes
circuit
étaient à la
breaker. A lot of people
il y avait
are
beaucoup de choses à faire.
at the house and
Comme
they
par
don't
exemple
have
faire des nouveaux
much
passe-temps.
to do. Sometimes they need new hobby. To raise chicken
Ça
is a
prend
hobby
beaucoup d'engagement
that takes a
et
lot of
beaucoup
commitment
d'attention.
and a lot of attention.
Une nouvelle activité à nos
It would
citoyens
give a new activity to our citizens to raise chicken in the
un autre passe-temps et un autre argument
another hobby
qui
and
va
another
avec
argument that
l'argument précédent,
goes with my
c'est
previous
chercher
one
des œufs le matin.
is to go and
Chaque
get the
matin,
eggs in the
ça
morning.
donne un sens de
To pick eggs
responsabilité
in the morning, it gives a sense
de
of
prendre soin des animaux, juste
responsibility
comme un chat ou
and
un
to
chien.
think of our animal just like a
Chaque
dog
jour,
and a
de
cat.
prendre soin de
We
comme un
have to
animal
clean
de compagnie
and take care of such just like a
ça nous
pet.
donne une vraiment bonne idée
It gives us a good idea
de ces créatures qui
where
produisent
our
des œufs,
eggs are coming from.
juste comme
These creatures that lay eggs and they're just like you and I, they have feelings, and the generation coming after us would have a better life.
et un de mes derniers
And
arguments
my
positifs à
last
propos des
positive
poules
argument
dans notre ville,
about
c'est
raising
le
chicken
suis-je.
in city
C'est intéressant à lire.
are
Ils
the
mangent
garbage.
300
Chicken
livres
eat
de déchets
300
par mois.
pounds
Le reste
of
de la
garbage
nourriture,
a
des
month.
coupures de légumes et de fruits,
The
ou le déchets
chicken
jetés à la poubelle.
skin, instead of
Tu récoltes
throwing it
ces
away in
ressources
the
de façon
garbage,
optimale pour les donner à tes
you
poules.
could give
C'est
them to the
positif
chicken.
de savoir que
You would feel a lot better knowing that the
l'alimentation est
food
gâchée.
that you did
Dernière
not
chose,
bother to eat, they would have an opportunity to create
un bon sentiment.
other creators that
Malgré
would
tous ces
give a
arguments
good
positifs,
sound. In
il y a
spite
aussi
of
des
all
arguments
these,
négatifs et je pense que tu
there
peux
are
avoir des
negative
solutions comment les
arguments.
résoudre.
I think I have solutions how to fix
Un
them.
d'eux, c'est un
One
des
of them,
désavantages négatifs,
one
c'est
of the negative
les poules ne,
is the
ne font
cry.
pas beaucoup de bruit.
They don't make
Comme
too
elles
much
poussent, elles
noise.
veulent
They
pas. Elles
travel,
parlent
they
entre
live a
elles
life, they
juste comme
talk
des
among
chiens.
themselves just like
Un
human
des choses à
beings.
côté de nous qui fait beaucoup de
We
bruit,
have a dog
beaucoup plus
beside us
fort
that make a lot of
que les
noise,
poules. Les
much
poules
louder
passent
than
entre
chicken. What is the
24 et
difference
48
between
heures sur 24
a dog
et les
that
poules
bark all the
chient
time,
pendant
keep
toute
us
la
awake
journée
at
et
night,
peut-être dormir avec
and
nous
hens
et
that talk
dans notre
only at night and would go in the
quasiment,
backyard?
quasiment la même chose, honnêtement.
It's almost the same thing on long
Une
term.
autre chose, c'est la senteur.
Another thing is the
Quand
smell.
ça vient à
When
un nouveau privilège,
it comes to a new
les
privilege,
personnes qui veulent garder le privilège
those
aiment
who
bien
want
beaucoup
to
le
keep
garder.
the
Cependant, quand
privilege
ça vient
should
à le
not keep it
nettoyage
when it comes
de
to the
poubelle,
cleaning
ceux qui veulent vraiment
of
garder
the chicken,
les poules à Dieppe
the hen
vont faire mieux
pen.
prendre soin
If they have chicken in
du
the app, they'll take
nettoyage
care
des
of
poubelles.
cleaning
Car aussi,
the
c'est une autre chose que tu fais pour
hen
tes animaux aussi.
house. That's something you do for your
Un des
pets.
avantages de
You
nettoyer
clean the
aussi,
cage
c'est de
and
faire la même
you
chose avec des poules. Mais quand
bring attention to them. The
ça
same
vient
thing
dans
with
un
chicken.
environnement à
They
l'intérieur.
are the same as you and
Un autre
I
chose, c'est les
inside.
rats.
One other
Les
thing
rats, ils aiment beaucoup la
is a
senteur de
rat.
nourriture des poules.
The
Ils
rat,
vont
they
venir
meet
dans la
the
nuit
smell of a
et
chicken. They
s'entraîner
come during
et
the night while
manger
the
par-dessus
chicken
toutes
are
les petites graines
sleeping
qu'on nous fait
and they will
manger.
eat
Et
all
la
the
solution,
small grain.
c'est faire sûr que
Solution
la
is
cage
to make sure that the
et les
cage
aliments
is clean
n'attirent pas les rats.
and that the food
Une
does
dernière
not attract
chose,
the
c'est
rat.
à
The
propos
last
des
thing
bylaws pour
has to do with the
les hens
bylaw
et les poules.
for the
Honnêtement, je trouve
hens.
que c'est juste la même
I
chose
find that it's the same thing
en arrière de ta maison.
as uh,
Il faut
a
demander la
sheep.
permission,
Sheep.
il faut prendre
You
les
have to ask
précautions
permission. You have to
et
take the
il faut
proper
la
materials,
garder propre juste
and
comme
we
tu
have to
gardes
keep
une
it
maison.
clean.
Si on pourrait demander la
Just if we
permission
could
et
ask
comprendre
permission
le
and
village,
take care
on comprendrait
of
exactement
the hen
une chaîne
house, just
derrière
like
notre maison.
we would take care of
Ça
a
serait
sheep
complètement
in
différent
front of our house. It would make sense
d'avoir des poules à Dieppe.
that we could have chicken
Honnêtement,
in the app.
encore un honneur de faire
Honestly,
cette
it's an
présentation.
honor to make this presentation. And these
Et
are my arguments. Thank you for your
bonsoir.
listening and good evening.
Merci à toi
Well,
pour
thank you
ta belle
to you
présentation.
for your nice presentation.
Est-ce qu'on peut avoir une copie
Could
de
we
ta
have a copy of your
présentation?
presentation?
Oui, mais c'est techniquement pas trop
Yes,
facile faire ça
but
peine. C'est juste
They're not full sentences. They're just items that my mother and I put down. Okay. Well, we will have the video as such that we will give to the staff. Monsieur Blanson, do you have a comment to make? Yes, Your Worship. Thank you once again. Similarly, we have a bylaw that structures the chicken. They can be placed in the city of Dieppe. We'll have a discussion with the council in due time because there are benefits and some disadvantage with hence Genevieve, as you said, we'll discuss with in the next few meetings. Any questions from the councillors? Yes, Mrs. Godbout. Thank you for your presentation. Ms. Brooks, I think it was excellent. I have a question for you. You mentioned at the beginning that you had personal experience. Could you explain more how your curiosity and how it started for you, that experience? Give us a taste. If we should have a bylaw that would allow it, what could we do to interest people to do more?
C'est genre
Well,
l'histoire qui m'a venu
this
intriguer
is the story
de
that
l'entreprise
happened to
ici.
me
Et j'ai
and the
apprécié
reason
l'intonation
that
avec
brought
la
me here.
proximité de France aussi. Ça a tout commencé
It
durant
all
l'été,
started
quand ma mère
in May
voulait un projet de
when
poussée
my
avec sa classe.
mother wanted
Elle
to
voulait
have a
que le
project
programme
for her classroom.
d'alphabétisation
She
soit en
didn't
ligne
use
pour
the
apprendre aux
rules,
fermiers
so she gave the
que
farmers.
les œufs d'œufs. Et ne t'inquiète pas, le fermier, il est un homme super gentil, les
The
rendait
farmer
heureux.
is very
Son
nice,
poulailler, il est
and
extraordinaire.
his
C'est une personne qui aime beaucoup les
hen
poules
house,
et a un grand
he
cœur.
likes
En fait, lorsque ma
the
mère a eu des bébés,
chickens, and he
elle
has a big
pensait
heart.
pouvoir
When she had
attendre
eggs,
jusqu'au jour où
she
elle pouvait
thought
les visiter.
until I went to
Lorsqu'elle a
visit
touché les
them.
œufs pour la première
And
fois,
when I
elle a
touched the eggs
senti
for
un
the
vent.
first time,
Il y
I
avait de
could
la vie dedans.
feel
Et
that
c'était
there
un
was
moment
life in it,
excitant.
and it was an exciting
Dès
feeling.
qu'ils ont finalement venu à
The
l'heure,
day that they
ils
finally
les ont suivis et ils
came
les ont pas quittés.
through the shell,
J'ai tenu dans mes
some
mains un
survived,
sac
some died.
blanc
I
comme
found them
extraordinaire.
in my hands, and I felt that it
Je
was
leur
an
ai
excellent
promis
experience.
qu'elle
And
allait prendre soin des poussins dans sa classe.
I knew that my
Dire comme maman,
mother
c'est
would
une
take
poule, je
care of
comprends.
them in her chair,
Puis
in
qu'elle
her
allait prendre
classroom,
soin des poussins.
and
Et
it
quand
was
j'étais petite,
really quite
ma
an
mère nous
experience.
laissait
And on the
les laisser
weekend, she
tranquilles.
would
Ils voulaient faire
bringing
leur
them
sport.
home, and
Je me
I would
souviens
care for them
qu'on était
myself. And I remember that I spent
dans un
hours
canton que
besides the
ma mère
carton box
avait
in which I was
trouvé comme
keeping them
l'espace pour se reposer.
and give them everything they needed to survive. I
J'ai
have
pratiquement juste
photographs and
accepté
video.
le papier de famille.
Technically, if
Tout
I
ça, tout ça
treated them as
restait
if they
dans
were
ma
part of my
tête
family.
comme
All
une
of that
responsabilité.
was
Et je me suis dit,
excellent. I
comment
took
faire
good care of them, and I
respecter
felt
leur
so
privacy
much
pour leur
responsible
aussi
as if I had my own
garantir une
egg
sécurité pour
industry
elles.
and I could show the
Et le
people
jour
that I could
arrivé
do
où
better.
j'avais besoin
The
de
day
laisser
came where I
les
had
poussins
to
au fermier.
give
Et le jour
my
où
chicken
ma mère
back
me
to the
dit qu'elle
farmer
aimerait
that
tourner
day
les
at
plaques,
school.
depuis
I
ce
could not
jour-là,
stop crying since
et
that
à
day.
chaque jour,
Each
ma mère
day,
fait un peu de lui
even
intestin.
my mother
Je
can say
parlais
it's
à
true.
propos de ces poussins-là.
I talk
Tout ce
about
que je
these
leur
little
disais,
chicken.
on
That's
a,
all I wanted to talk
on
about
a fait un compromis
until we made a
qu'on achète
compromise
en prenant près de
that
nouveau, mais je veux
we could
encore
have
responsabilité.
some more, but I would
Et
still be
finalement,
responsible
ma mère avait dit que je pouvais
because
faire
my
ça
mother
si je voulais
said
prendre soin des poussins
that
moi-même.
only if I would
Et
care for them
finalement,
myself.
j'ai
And
refusé
honestly,
les enfants poules
that's
parce que
why
je
I
pensais
want
qu'ils
to
pouvaient
have
mourir.
them
Ça m'a aussi
because of the
intriguée
responsibility I
parce que
had.
d'autres de mes amis ont décidé
And
d'avoir joué avec des poussins.
it gave the
Maintenant,
taste to my
avec mon
friends to
âge,
take care
je
of
me sens
chicken. We
comme
had a
le citoyen
forum, and
devant
I
l'expérience.
feel that the city should have the
J'ai
same
commencé ma
experience that I
curiosité
had,
et
and
qu'un
that it'd
jour
be
je
something
suis
new and
sortie de
something
l'île
extraordinary
à la baie,
that I could
j'aurais
offer to
apprécié
the
pouvoir
city.
m'amener à ce projet.
That is what
Merci
brought
beaucoup.
me here. Thank you very much.
Merci,
Thank you,
euh, Madame Boudreau.
Merci, Monsieur
Mrs.
le maire.
Boudreau. Thank you, Your
Merci
Worship.
beaucoup pour ta
Thank you
présentation.
very much for
Ça
your
m'a paru
presentation. I find you
parler ce
very
soir.
courageous to come to talk to us
Je tiens
tonight.
vraiment juste à te féliciter pour
I
ton
want to
engagement avec les
congratulate
animaux.
you for your devotion and your love for animals.
Merci,
Thank you,
Brideau.
Monsieur Brideau.
Merci, Monsieur le maire.
Thank you, Your Worship.
Je
I
trouve
want
que
to say
c'est
bravo.
présenter ton projet. Je veux
You've
juste dire que
presented your project.
une
I
demande
want to
pour
say
beaucoup
that
de gens
recently I receive a request from a lady who's got two children at home. From what I saw in her message, she's asking the permission that the city may allow to have a hen. She's not talking about uh, hen park, but a few hens that they can raise and keep in their backyard. You're not the only one. Thank you and good evening. You too. Again, it's my honor to be here, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to share it with you.
Merci encore une fois,
Thank
monsieur.
you once again. Thank you
Il y a
to
un
you,
suivi qui sera
and
fait
there'll be a
suite
follow up uh,
des coordonnées. Oui,
that
bien.
there will be with the staff. Thank you very much. Good evening.
Bonsoir.
Good evening.
OK, deuxième intervenant pour les
Second
interventions.
presentation.
On va parler cette fois-ci
This time we'll talk
d'agriculture
about
urbaine à Dieppe.
urban agriculture in Dieppe.
Catherine Côté.
Catherine Cote, you don't have to adjust anything.
Français passé en atelier, la barre est haute, là. Je suis la dame en question qui fait à Catherine.
The lady in
Vraiment,
question,
le monde est petit parce que ça fait plusieurs années
the word is small.
qu'on parle qu'on aimerait avoir des poules.
We've been talking that we would like to have
Le microphone
a
est ouvert.
chicken. Please
C'est bon.
align the mic
Ça
so we
fait
hear you.
quelques années que moi et mon petit garçon,
Well, for many years, my
on
boy
parlait
and
d'avoir des
I
poules
make a
dans
garden. We talk about having
cette année, mon
hens.
garçon est dans notre
It
famille.
stayed like that. And this year,
Il est
my
vraiment
son
surpris
is
quand on
in
parlait justement de notre
her
projet
mother's
avec
classroom. She was doing a project with the incubation of eggs,
justement, on en parlait. Fait que
and we were
c'est
talking
une
about it.
demande
So I
aussi.
submitted
Si ça
a request and I asked if it was okay to take her experience. She said, well, my daughter is here.
Donc, ça va probablement être assez
So
répétitif
it
parce que la
probably
demande
will be a
est
repetition
pas mal de.
because she covered quite a few things.
Donc, c'est ça.
So
La présentation, c'est ça. Je suis Catherine Côté, j'habite à
I'm
Dieppe.
Catherine Colte. I live in Dieppe. I have
J'aime beaucoup
children.
justement l'agriculture,
I love
l'agriculture
agriculture and
familiale.
micro family agriculture.
Pour moi, c'est juste la sécurité
And
de
for me, it
On peut se voir
will connect you so we can see the site.
Donc, je ne sais pas si vous avez déjà eu le temps
I
d'avoir la
don't know
présentation avant
if
ou
you
si
had a
c'est très
chance to
brièvement
look at the
d'informations.
presentation. There's a lot of information, and
Donc, on parlait d'avantages. Encore là, c'est comme je dis,
so
le mot
here
est
again,
actif.
I'm
Et on parle
repeating.
d'autosuffisance.
We talk about self
On mange
food
des produits à la maison.
sufficiency. We
Pour
all
l'instant, une
eat
de
eggs at
nos
home. We have to
pour justement
buy them directly,
faire
and we encourage
des
big
démarches qui sont faites à l'hiver.
producers,
Donc, éliminer tous les déchets de
and
poules. Fait que ça va directement dans le compost.
the hens they eat all the garbage from the table,
Comme compost.
and they can be
Donc,
used
si vous
as
êtes capable d'avoir un compost à la
compost.
maison qui a du
So
certificat
if you will have compost at
qui
home
est
that
encore en
have
contact
no
avec
smell and is
l'administration,
still good with the neighbors, it's the same thing. Compost with the hen. We talk about 2 to 4 hens at the most. We don't talk about a mountain that
Donc, le développement de
would be
l'empathie,
big. The development
aussi,
and the the small and the adults to take care of a small
qui sont sensibles
chick,
aux
and
transformations
there we
climatiques.
attach to them. The children have responsibility.
Faut pas s'attendre à ce que
I mean, we can't expect that the child be completely responsible
développe
for a
l'empathie,
hand, but it developed the responsibility, the empathy, and the cause of fresh food, that they understand where the food is coming from at the table. We have a lot of producers here. We're lucky. And I find that that is a good compliment. And it's one more step to have our ecological print by making ejection. It give us the taste to be careful with something else, use more plastic, more bags. So a good action bring about another one, the feeling of community. I live on Charlottesville. Everybody has guidance, and every time I go by and I see the neighbor, the garden, when I go by, they say, "Ah, look at my garden." Well, the same thing with chicken. It allowed to start a new group, a small group, and to help each other, of course, even if the bylaw would be in tomorrow, that the majority of people would happen. It's not for everyone. I mean, It's for a very small minority. It's easier to manage, and a lot of people live in an apartment, so they're not interested. But for those that would be interested, I think that there is a mean. We have a lot of old age people in apartments that, who cannot have a community garden, but maybe they could have a community hand park. And Miss Sylvie was saying that maybe they could have, hence at the school when we talk about community, it can be to break solidarity. You live in a green city, you're lucky. So I think that it goes without saying it's a return to the source. COVID made that value come out on a lot of people. For some people, they will take the habit, but it made all of us realize how we depend on transportation if we talk about eggs on a smaller scale. But yet, it's a start, it's something, and that's it.
Donc ça, c'est ça. Et
So,
l'exemple que
this
je
is
vois
the
aussi,
example that
là,
we'll
on a
see
décidé de
here.
regarder par la
You
suite
can look at it
du
afterwards.
New-Brunswick,
Mrs.
où on
Sylvie
avait
that
fait un projet
explains
comme les jeux
what her
Avantages
project
avec des
of
poules.
incubation of
Donc,
eggs in the classroom
quand c'était fini, il y avait
woke up at the
parce que
people.
c'était vraiment
When it was over, they didn't want to go home.
sécurisé.
And one had a
Et avec
broken
Christian, il a
uh,
aussi montré le cycle de vie,
leg, and
puis l'importance
so
de bien s'en
the
occuper.
importance of taking care of it very
Puis
carefully.
quand tu as
In
choisi, en
fact,
fait, mon mari, parce qu'on
this
avait
presentation was made for my husband. When I said to my husband, I want to have
du bruit, il y en a pas
a
question.
hen, he said, no, there's. So we bought a dog. We have a very
Ça, c'est
big
pourquoi je
dog.
me suis dit, ben, je vais
I
passer avec lui en premier.
put
Puis c'est
him
certain
on.
que
I said, I'll
il
go
a peut-être des choses
over with him first, and
Notamment
if
avec
it
ça,
works out, I'll go further.
crainte
So I
liée
try
au
to
projet
deal
santé,
with the
parce que tout
fear.
le monde dit, ah non, des poules, c'est dangereux.
Everybody says
Oui, j'ai un point d'eau
that
aussi.
hens
Donc, je sais que c'est vraiment
smell
important
bad.
dans ma cour parce que
So
si
it's
jamais il
very
y avait un poule dans ma
important.
cour, il pourrait faire
If it
aussi
was
mal à la
not,
maison. Fait que
my neighbors would complain. So the same thing, whether
puis
it's a
j'aime ça,
cat
me
or a
donner
dog.
2 semaines de faire
So
des
every
tours
2 weeks, it's time
mais
to
sinon,
clean,
c'est simple.
but
Mettre des
it's
petits
quite
sachets de
simple.
fumier, comme un peu du
And there
compost,
again,
pour
it's a
passer
little bit like compost to
ça,
close up.
petit segue
So
aussi
it's like a
pour
little segue. So
les
it
enfants,
attracts,
considérant la
it
manière
can
dont tu
attract a rat.
nourris les
Of
oiseaux,
course,
tu
the
fais les
same
bird watch
when I
là-dessus,
feed
puis
birds. I'm a member of the
tu
Feed
déranges
the
toutes les
Bird
graines qui tombent,
Watch,
c'est sûr
but
que ça va
some seeds fall on the ground that will attract
ouais, un peu comme
the rats, but that is not a problem.
le sac de
We manage, we never leave
fermé, même chose
the
pour les
bag
petits
of
bobos,
grain outside. The same thing for food
hermétique,
of hens. It can be close
ou même sur le canapé,
uh,
tu le
or
remets
keep it
sécuritaire. Puis aussi le soir, il suffit juste
on
de
the
passer
porch.
la nourriture
And at
avec
night,
un
it's just
camion
a
de plus
matter
que
of bringing the
la
food
même
that
chose
was
aussi
not
pour ceux
eaten
qui voudraient
inside.
couvrir
Same thing for
parce qu'il y a
those
des chaudrons qui
who
amènent
want
déjà des
to
traînées
they
dehors
keep food
de
outside
nourriture, même chose pour
to feed the cat. The same thing
un
with
organisme qui est
compost.
bien géré,
So
qui
if
sait
it's
toujours
well managed in a responsible way,
vouloir avoir
as they were saying,
bon
those who want to have
de
a farm and follow the
des
code,
gens qui sont
uh,
assez
normally they're
responsables.
people who are quite responsible.
Évidemment, on devrait faire
Of
preuve de
course,
gentillesse à parler à nos voisins aussi avant. Moi, j'ai
we
des
should
voisins
talk to
néerlandophones
our
parce que
neighbors first. I have neighbors. I would talk to them and to explain to them and make a presentation before I go any further.
ça, tu as tout bien dit déjà. C'est sûr
A
que ça fait
brilliant
juste un peu réfléchir
chicken.
aussi à
Well, at night they sleep.
Charlottesville. Il y a
I
beaucoup
live on Chartersville. There's a lot of traffic.
d'avions. Le bruit est déjà là. C'est pas les
The
poules
noise is already
qui
there.
vont
It's
être
not
pour
the
l'instant, on
hen
va entendre
that
voisiner.
will cause noises. I mean, we have noises, but it would be with fresh eggs that.
Puis là, je vous ai mis des liens pour comment
And I've put some links
baser, mais c'est
for references on which I base myself on.
donc c'est ça en
So
conclusion.
that's it.
Ça serait vraiment pour, vu qu'on
Conclusion.
Dieppe est tellement une ville verte,
Dieppe is such a green city.
beaucoup d'efforts à garder
We
cet espace
put a lot
vert,
of
il y a des
emphasis to
activités que
keep
la famille en
the
profite
green space, to develop them. There are nice community gardens everywhere. There was a fruit tree project underway.
quand même, puis ça serait
I
un bon
think it
exemple en tant que
goes
ville
very well. It would be a good example as a city
que même la ville
to
accueille
show that even the
des
city
choses aussi.
supports the return to the
Je
source,
parlé un peu, là, mais
like the caliber girls,
peut-être même
and maybe even
participer au compost parce que j'en
I
fais
think about composting.
puis ça m'aide
Since I have a garden, it could be
le compost,
an exchange between between composting and eggs. I'm a little nervous.
beaucoup d'avoir
Thank you very much for accepting to listen to me and
Merci à
to
vous.
hear us. Thank you very much once again. Any questions from the counselors? Mrs. Turgeon-Roy,
Ta
thank
présentation
you
était vraiment
for your presentation. You did a very good job. I like the benefits that you mentioned. So the the feeling of responsibility among the children, a return to the source. But I asked myself a question. We talk about 3 to 4 hands. What would be reasonable limits that we as council, if we go ahead,
Ben, partout où je me suis renseignée,
well,
j'ai vu qu'il
everywhere,
y en a plein de livres super
we
intéressants
have
sur
all
ça à
kinds of
l'intérieur de ça.
books that deal
C'est
with
sûr que de
that.
1 à
It
4,
says that
c'est
1 to 5,
d'observer vraiment
they're animals,
puis de
really.
regarder autre chose,
Even at
faire
2,
ce qui est vraiment
they
difficile
remain warm in the winter.
puis c'est
So,
pas tout le temps par groupe de 2.
and it goes by group of 2.
Donc, entre 1 et 4, que c'est
Between
comme de
1 and
mettre des
4,
enfants, je vais leur donner des petits
it's
noms.
like children,
C'est quasiment la même chose.
It's almost the same thing.
C'est vraiment pas
If you
beaucoup
have
plus
1, you have
de
4. So
responsabilité. Par contre, avec
it's
les
not
enfants,
more responsibility, but after
c'est
5,
surtout
well,
parce qu'on veut leur garder assez
especially
d'espace de vie
we
aussi.
want to
Quand il y a
keep
assez d'espace,
a nice
on pose la
lifestyle.
question surtout des
And
fleurs.
for the management
Surtout le
of
flower.
flowers and the
Des
food,
fois, tu as des gens qui
it
aiment ça.
becomes
Il y
heavier.
a encore des gens qui ont
But for
des
most
fleurs
people who have a
saisonnières
job
comme
outside,
remplaçant.
well, it's like a hobby.
Pour ça, c'est de 1 à 4.
Everywhere it's 1 to 4
Nous, il y a cette question. Oui, l'hiver, tu as
in
mentionné
the
l'hiver.
winter.
Oui, absolument.
Ça vit dehors,
Ça
l'hiver.
vit dehors,
They
évidemment.
live
Il y a des
outside.
poulaillers.
Yes,
Il y a toutes les
obviously.
dimensions aussi d'inscrits
There's
dans
the
les
size
dans la plupart des
are
municipalités.
mentioned in
Tout
bylaws.
dépend
Montreal,
qui sont dedans.
Moncton.
Il peut y avoir un élément
It's a
restriction, puis ça peut
hen
permettre
house
de l'arrêter ou pas, parce que
that can
normalement,
be
quand c'est
added
en
in the
automne, ils
bylaw
sont
because
eux, ils sont
sometimes
encore centaines,
when
donc
there's two,
ils sont même isolés. Ça
they
peut
heat
juste
up
être quelques minutes,
among
le
themselves. It
chauffage est
doesn't
allumé, mais
have
il y a
to
quand
be
même un petit, un certain
well.
standard.
There's a
Puis
kind of standard to be respected, but it
l'hiver,
goes in the
c'est ceux
choice
qui
of
sont
the
plus
race of
plus à
hens.
l'acclimat.
Some hens are more accustomed to
Ça
our
dépend d'abord
weather. There's search to be done
C'est
by
qui
the
ton.
people. If not, we eat them in the winter. Thank you very much.
Merci,
Thank you,
Monsieur le conseiller, Madame Boudreau, excusez-moi.
Mrs.
Moi, j'ai
Woodrow.
seulement
Thank you,
une
Worship.
question, je ne sais pas vers qui
My
je vais
question, I
l'adresser,
don't know who I will
mais
ask it
c'était
to,
la
but
question du bien-être des
the
animaux.
question of well-being
Souvent,
of animals.
on est propriétaire d'un animal
The owner
et
of an animal,
on occupe bien, puis il y en a d'autres
some
qui
people
prennent
take care of them and
soin,
others
tout ça.
not as good.
Ma
Cats,
question est
dogs.
vraiment,
My question is really,
si quelqu'un
what do
est
we do
propriétaire de
if
poules qui
someone
sont déjà
is
pas bien,
owner of
je sais pas,
hens
est-ce
and
que
don't take care?
intervenir
Can the SPCA intervene?
déborder avec les autres animaux,
Is
les
there
statistiques, qui va prendre soin de
who
ces
will take
animaux
care of
s'il y a
these
de
animals
l'abus.
if there's an abuse?
C'est une des questions qu'on se
That's
pose
one of the questions that we ask ourselves because presently we take care of dogs and cats.
il y a ressources humaines
It
possiblement
comes
à
with
voir
human
si
resources, possibly, and to
le
see
considère
that
de changer son
if the
activité
consider if the council considers to change the bylaw for chicken, it comes with surveillance monitoring. It's part of the reflection when we have a regulation as driving on the road. Some people watched if there's abuse. If I can add something on that, I fully agree with
qu'il va
you.
en avoir, par contre, si c'est
Unfortunately, there will always be some, but if you go on Marketplace, Kijiji, you are able now to have as many free dogs and cats that you want. People give them away
les gens mettent pas de
because
valeur
of that.
nécessairement, puis c'est vrai qu'il y en a qui abandonnent leur chien
Some
abandonnent leur
abandon
chien
their dogs, that's
parce
true,
qu'en
but
fait, c'est facile de laisser
because in
les
fact it's easy to have them.
on s'entend que c'est pas
While
considéré
hence, we agree,
puis selon
we
les
have to
standards
build
c'est
uh,
pas donné non plus, hein.
a hen house. It's not
Faut acheter
given free of charge. We have to
des
purchase a
euh,
permit,
je veux dire, il y a
a
beaucoup de règles
license,
à suivre
There's a protocol to follow, some steps to follow to obtain the permit. While for a dog and a cat, there's a medal, but pretty sure that it's not everyone. It's not everybody that brings their animals to a veterinarian. That's why I fully agree. The number of citizens that will be interested, number one, of having hens and have dogs and cat. It's a lot of responsibility to have 1 to 4 hens. We have to take care of them, and it's surrounded by farmers. So I'm part of a group of hens just to see what it's like. And all the time people say, well, I can't have a certain thing. I take it. There is a circuit of people all over. They are highly busy. They take them to eat them and whatever reason. And there is a network that is well established. And it's much easier to raise 4 hens. I don't know if it's the SPCA or who, to take 4 pence and say, here, that a dog, a cat will stay there for a long time.
Merci.
Thank you.
Quelqu'un d'autre?
Anyone else?
Je vois pas aucune autre
I don't see
question.
anyone else
La parole. Alors,
that
merci pour
ask
votre
permission to speak.
présentation. Ce serait
Thank you for your
très intéressant.
presentation.
Le conseil va se pencher sur
The
la question.
council will study the question, and
Peut-être interpeller
maybe you will
des
be
décisions
called
qui
upon
pourraient
to
être
answer
prises.
some questions.
Certainement, vous tiendra informé
Certainly, it will keep you aware. I
Merci.
can, I'm very committed. I can
Merci. Bonne fin de soirée.
watch
Prochaine
hence. Good evening. Next
présentation,
presentation,
pétition concernant
petition concerning pedestrian crossing
l'intersection
at the
Gaspé
intersection
et
Gaspé and Evangeline.
Shane Dobson.
Shane Dobson.
Shane, bonsoir.
Shane, good evening.
Donc, ça, j'ai ma présentation. Est-ce que. Oui,
I have my presentation on
moi, ça.
PowerPoint.
Peut-être augmenter le podium aussi, Sean, en même temps.
Maybe you can raise the podium at the same time.
Merci. OK. Merci. Bon, bonsoir.
Good evening. Good evening,
Monsieur le maire,
Your Worship,
conseil,
members of council,
bonsoir. Je suis ici
administrator. I'm here
pétition demandant
tonight to give a petition
l'intersection de la rue
to
Gaspé.
ask a crossing pedestrian at the corner of Gaspé and Evangeline. My name is Shane Dobson. I'm a citizen, a resident. Here is my presentation.
Donc, pourquoi suis-je ici ce soir?
Why am I here tonight?
Je dois commencer par
First
souligner
of all, I have to mention the efforts that the city is doing
cette fin
to
que
encourage
projet que l'on prend au sérieux.
people, big project, that we take the
Lors du
project
discours du maire
seriously.
lors de la réunion
It's
de présentation
Mr. Lapierre
officielle du 14
at the
juin,
swearing in of June the
j'ai eu la
14th
confiance d'une fois de
that
plus.
gave me the confidence to come here
Bien
tonight.
qu'il ne s'agisse pas d'un projet de grand
Even
montant,
though it's
je
not
pense
a
que ce
big
projet
project,
dépasse
I
largement celui de
strongly
la
believe
valeur
that
de
this
Dieppe.
pedestrian crossing goes with the value of the app.
Voici les étapes que
Here
nous
are
avons
the
franchies.
steps that we
Je
followed
viens
until
devant vous
now.
ce soir
I
parce
come
qu'une décision
before you today because the initial request
à mon avis,
to the city
va à
was turned
l'encontre des
down.
valeurs de la ville de Dieppe.
This goes against the value of the city of Dieppe,
La ville
encourage
veut
active
protéger les
transportation
utilisateurs
and safety of all users of a highway and to make
mais ont également
our roads uh, more
véritablement
viable.
j'ai
After the
décidé de
refusal
présenter
of
la
their
pétition
request, I decided to
dans
take
la
it
phase
upon
administrative.
myself.
J'ai
During the
discuté avec
pandemic,
les gens du
I
quartier
discussed with
et j'ai
people
reçu de très bons
from the
commentaires.
ward and I received some good comments.
Quant à la pétition,
As for the
lors du mois de
petition,
juillet, nous avions déjà
at
presque
the end of
100
August,
signatures de recueillies.
we had close to 100 signatures
Voici
on the
quelques
paper
images de
collected.
l'intersection.
Here are a
Je tiens
few
de première
images of the
préciser que sur un
intersection.
côté de la rue
Please
Evangeline,
note there's no sidewalk on one
il y a
side of
un trottoir cyclable.
eventually.
Celui-ci
To
s'arrête
go
au bas de l'image.
at the
Le
bottom
croisillé
of the
central
image, we have to
donne accès
cross
aux piétons.
on the right that give a right to the pedestrian.
Ici, veuillez
Here,
noter que si on
please
approche
note
le feu de circulation au coin de la
that
rue
we're close to a traffic light at the end
Ici,
of
je note
Acadie and
qu'il y a des
Evangeline.
arrêts d'autobus
Please
scolaires
note there's a lot of bus stops
dans ce coin.
along the way in that corner of the ward.
Ici, voici une vue aérienne
Here is
d'un
an aerial view
passage piéton.
from the pedestrian crossing that we are proposing.
Bon, maintenant, un peu plus
Now,
d'informations par rapport au
a
quartier.
little bit more
À la marche,
information
on est
with
à
the
deux
ward.
minutes du
By
centre-ville
walk, we're 2 minutes
industriel
from the
de la station
industrial, 5 minutes from
distance
Champlain
que
bus
certains
stop.
jugent
Distances that
trop.
some people would say
Il y a aussi une bonne
too much to
visibilité
walk.
ici.
There's a lot of
Il
people
y a
here.
plusieurs appartements à l'intérieur
We
de la
find
100 mètres de cet
apartment
endroit.
blocks within 100 meters from this intersection.
Cette diapositive, désolé. En parlant de la pétition,
Talking with the
pour
position,
recueillir des signatures pour cette
to
pétition,
collect
m'accorde la
signatures allow
conversation
me to have conversation with the
On
people
constate que la
from the ward.
majorité des gens qui traversent
We
la
notice
rue
that the majority of people who
ne le faisaient pas
cross
de façon
the street
récréative.
weren't doing
Pour
it
se rendre à leur travail ou à leur école.
recreation, but to go to
On
work
constate que la majorité des
or
gens
to go
s'accordent sur
shopping.
le besoin
People
d'un passage
agreed
piéton
on the
ici
need
pour
to
la
have a
sécurité
pedestrian crossing for a safety reason
soit des
or
citoyens.
security reason. Let's
Par
jump
rapport
over
au
this
transport
one.
actif. La
Active
marche, à la fin de la
transportation.
journée,
Walking
considère le
at the end
transport
of the
actif le
day
plus accessible à tous.
is the most
Dans ce
accessible
quartier,
traffic
les voitures
transportation way in
ne sont
this
pas nécessaires
ward.
pour accomplir
A
ces
car is not a must to
déplacements.
accomplish
Dans la journée,
any
il y a
displacement
des
throughout
gens
the day.
qui vont
There are
travailler
people on
ou
foot
à l'école.
who go to work
En
or
plus,
go shopping.
le
In
transport
brief,
actif
the
est déjà
active
présent de fait.
transportation is already
Pourquoi ne pas
present in
l'encourager?
this ward. Why not encourage it?
De plus, juste pour vous montrer que
Furthermore,
je
just
n'invente
to
pas
show
ceci,
you that I'm not
voici un map
inventing
box du
this,
quartier en question.
here is the map
Avec
of the
l'intersection
word in question
d'intersection
with the
marquée au noir.
intersection by
Bien que ce n'est pas un outil
the
parfait,
mark, even
voici
though it's not perfect. Westcore
montre les
shows
endroits les plus accessibles
the most
pour marcher ou
accessible
activer
places
quotidienne à la
for
marche.
daily
Plus que vert,
activities on
c'est
foot.
plus
The more
profond
green
l'endroit est,
it
ou en
is,
anglais
the
are.
more the area is
L'intersection
walkable.
en question est
The
située
intersection in
dans une
question
zone
is
verte.
well located in the dark green area.
En termes de sécurité,
Security wise,
il y a plusieurs personnes âgées qui habitent
a
là.
lot of senior
Malgré
people
le
live
stationnement
in that
payant,
ward.
couplé
For
à
a
la
speed
longueur
of
de
walking
l'intersection, la
further,
probabilité qu'ils font
the
face
width of this
à des automobilistes
intersection,
s'arrêterait
uh,
pour un
the,
accident discret
it
ou
would
accident
take
si un accident arrive
a
avant.
driver for an accident to happen at the end of the day.
Sur cette carte, j'ai
On
indiqué les
this
portes
map,
d'entrée et de sortie
indicate
du
the
quartier.
entrance and exit from the
Considérant
ward.
que le quartier est représenté
The
par la
ward
grille en vert,
is represented by the green
cette intersection, la N de
point. This
est déjà
intersection
très fréquentée
is
pendant les heures
already
normales.
much
C'est une ville où
occupied by cars.
disons simplement que cette
Let's simply
intersection
say
n'est pas un
that this
chemin de
intersection
cul-de-sac inaccroissant.
is not a dead end.
Donc, voici les rues comparables.
Here,
Les rues parallèles à la rue
the
Evangeline.
parallel
Sur
view,
la rue
parallel to
Saint-Antoine,
Evangeline on the
il y a deux
College
passages
Street,
piétons avec
we
des barrières
find
de trottoir sur
two
chaque côté.
pedestrian crossing with
Ceci
sidewalk
réduit
on
la
each side.
distance que le
These
pédestrier
reduce the
doit parcourir
distance that a pedestrian must walk to
L'image du
cross
bas, on
the
voit la
street.
rue
The second
Notre-Dame.
image, we see Notre Dame
On trouve
Street.
plusieurs arrêts
We
accessibles
find several
en
four-way
signalisation
stop
piéton avec enseigne sécurité.
plus one
Tout s'améliore à
pedestrian
améliorer la
and one
sécurité.
right of way, and this helps the security of pedestrian. All of
Donc,
this.
nous
So,
avons
therefore,
demandé un passage pour piétons ici.
we ask a
Ceci parce que c'est le plus
pedestrian
rapide
crossing.
et le
It's
plus
the
capable de réaliser.
less costly and the easiest
Si
one
on
to
veut vraiment
develop.
améliorer la
But if we
sécurité,
really want to
un
improve
passage pour piétons
circulation
supplémentaire
here,
serait de mise.
a crossing
Si vous avez
for
d'autres idées,
pedestrian would be
suggérez-les.
in order. If you have other ideas, I wish you would present them to me.
En conclusion,
In
cette
conclusion,
proposition vient
this proposal
va de part avec les valeurs de la ville.
goes along with the
Je pense
values
bien que
of
nous
Dieppe.
avons coché la
I
case
think
du
that
transport
we
actif,
have
de l'écologie
shown the
et de la sécurité
ecology
pour
and
l'ensemble des habitants.
safety
À mon
for
avis,
all the people.
bien que la
In
décision
my
soit
opinion,
liée aussi à
even
des
though the
aspects
decision
techniques,
is a technical
parce qu'elle
aspect,
associe
the
à des
value
positions
to
nobles,
which we
c'est un
are
sujet
presenting our views is a
c'est
political
le
one.
conseil municipal
It is
qui
you, the
décidera
municipal council,
quelles vont
that must
être ces
decide
valeurs.
what these
Selon mes
values will
raisonnements,
be. At the end of the
on
day,
peut s'entendre
I believe
sur
that
ceci.
we can
Ici, pour
agree
les gens
that we all want that word to be for youth and not only an area for cars. I would like to conclude with this. It goes like this. We cannot justify something with a number of people across the street as to the evaluation of the merit of this crossing. The Council Brideau said that the city has counted the number of people who cross on a given day. What that method is lacking is the context of these walking maybe with a crossing. More people would feel safe to cross it. The active transit is viable in this area. We should encourage it.
Juste avant de passer à ça, maintenant, je veux vous lire une lettre
Now,
d'amie
I want to
d'un
read
père de deux enfants
a letter
qui s'est
from
accordé de cette
a
pétition
mother of two children. If I talk this petition, she wrote a letter. It's in English.
Ça va comme suit. I live on Orleans Street. My kids take the school bus on the corner of Evangeline and Gaspé. To get to the bus stop, we must be very careful and vigilant, as there is traffic coming from every direction at this intersection. It would only take one distracted driver to bring on a terrible chain of events. Being new to this neighborhood and province, I've noticed that crosswalks demand the attention from drivers. The lack of a crosswalk here on the opposite signals to drivers that it's clear to drive fast. However, there are many children and elderly people in the neighborhood who need a safe place to cross. In my own experience, walking to Sobeys with my husband and two young kids, the experience was nerve-wracking, and it was near impossible to get across. I can only imagine when they get a little older and want a little more independence, I won't feel safe letting them go buy milk and eggs on their own, even though we live just up the street from Sobeys. I can only imagine that most of the parents in the neighborhood feel the same. We moved here to be walking distance of all amenities. However, safety is a real concern, and we find ourselves driving more and more than we were expecting. In closing, it's the people that live day in, day out in this community that know what is needed. Cindy Johns. Et merci pour votre écoute.
Thank you for listening. I'm ready for your question, comments, suggestions. Thank you for your presentation, first of all, and surprise, the counselor from the ward wants to be heard. Monsieur Brideau, please. Thank you, Worship. Thank you, Sean. We've talked about it several times. I can't be anything but in agreement with you. What you have seen for days of traffic is across from your place. I don't have to ask you any more evidence to say that it's a dangerous place. My colleague, I'm glad that you came here with the petition. I told you that I wanted to sign your petition. The petition was only for people who were crossing that I saw crossing. We received 100 signatures from people who used the crossing the few days that I was sitting in my yard. It didn't take long to receive 100 signatures. You can send me a message. Of course, as I said, when we assess the corner as to the number of people that were going by was at the beginning of summer. The youth were not in the street anymore and started work on the middle street. So it changed things. There was less people were using it on a daily basis. There was a lot of traffic on Gaspé Street. I have the impression that it won't take long. As soon as Zamiro is completed, uh, the everyday life of people will start over again. So we'll see uh, what administration will see what we can do. Thank you.
Et quelqu'un d'autre?
Anyone else?
Personne d'autre?
No one else?
Merci pour la
So thank you
présentation.
for the presentation. Do we have a copy?
C'est Thibodeau.
Monsieur Thibodeau? Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you for your presentation. When I heard you were saying that only those who crossed the street wrote the petition, what were the dates that you collected that petition?
Du 7 août
It was around August the 7th to August the 29th.
ça va nous profiter
It was not
de
during the
la
green.
de voir
Uh,
parler ici.
Notice there's a lot of names for such a short period. I ran after the people in the street. Thank you. Do we have a copy of the petition? Yes, it is attached to the package. If I may, the commitment that we made, the engineering department and Councilor Bido, yes, we are in a construction period on Acadia. It is under construction right now in front of the church. So it probably had an impact on the circulation for the whole area. We will make another evaluation on the circulation when it's back to normal in the spring. So that exercise, we've committed ourselves to repeat that exercise to have revised uh, results. Maybe I'll come to another conclusion. Can I add something about construction?
Je regarde les réunions du conseil, puis
I look at the councillors.
faire des travaux sur la rue Champlain.
They're planning to have work on Champlain Street
J'ai peur que la
in the
circulation
years to come, and I'm afraid that what we see this year
qu'on va voir
will repeat itself.
certaines intersections. Puis
The
ça va
traffic at
nous ferait
these
dévier
crossing is better
moi, c'est
to
vraiment le volume.
cure.
C'est
It's not the volume that concerns me, it's the speed. We have traffic lights, that's all. We've seen people cross a yellow light, and
Juste mon expérience, je vais vous donner mon expérience personnelle.
I'll give my personal experience. Once on 5 or 6, we crossed there. And all of a sudden, there's a car coming from nowhere at at the traffic lights, and we are faced with that car at Evangeline.
Les piétons, je vais vous dire, ne se sentent
Pedestrian, I tell you,
ils ont leur
don't feel as if they
que
belong there.
l'espace des
We
automobilistes
feel as if we are taking over the space of car drivers.
de façon
You can practice active transportation without really
secteur commercial.
forcing yourself. The commercial sector is right there. Thank you.
Oh, un autre conseiller qui veut se prononcer, monsieur.
Another one, Monsieur Thibodeau.
C'était tout à l'heure. OK, ça doit être plus tôt. Ça va?
Okay,
Personne d'autre? Alors,
no one else?
merci
Okay,
pour
once
la
again,
présentation.
thank you for your presentation.
On va attendre le rapport final
We will wait for the final report
de l'administration.
from the administration.
Soit on a des ingénieurs qu'on paye
That's why we have engineers that we pay
certains standards
for. They have to live with certain standards. Sometimes we can adjust it.
où ça va finir.
We'll see where it goes. Thank you very much.
Alors, maintenant, ça nous amène
Now, this brings us to
aux questions du public.
questions by members of the public.
Questions ce soir.
No question tonight.
Et thème 9, l'adoption
Item 9,
des
adoption of minutes
de la réunion du
of
25
the regular meeting of October the 25th last. We have a motion by Councillor Thibodeau, seconded by Councillor Turgeon-Roy.
Alors, sur la question,
On the question,
aucune question. Alors, ceux
no
qui
question.
sont
All those in favor,
par un oui,
say aye.
délai du comptable,
Contrary-minded, nay.
le procès-verbal de la réunion du
The minutes of the October 25th meeting is adopted as
thème,
circulated. Next,
10.1 du côté de l'administration.
motion memorandum administration,
Sur l'arrêté
a request on bylaw Z22 dealing with bylaw. Here we have requests from the research, National Request on Linguistic Research, who has to have an exception on the signage. Bylaw Z22 allow us to have an exception if the value shows inequality that they have a francophone or anglophone vocation. This meets the criteria, so it's recommended to grant that exception. Thank you for the reading of the resolution. Mrs. Boudreau.
Merci, Monsieur le Maire.
Thank you, Worship.
Le Conseil autorise
That
la
Council authorized the Canadian Institute of Research on Linguistic Minorities to proceed with a unilingual francophone signage. I so move by Councilor Bruno, seconded by Councilor Godet. On the question,
Aucune question.
no question. All those in favor say aye. Contrary minded nay. Carried as presented. 10.1.2 ratification of different directive adopted. Your worship, the three directives to the authorization to retain the consultants, the deal of completion with Gemini. It was given on June the 8th, 2020. The second is a purchase of land, a parcel on Melanson Road that coincides with the Melanson roads. That guideline was given in March 2021 and outright signing authority, a letter from the municipality that was sent to the province about the local government reform that was adopted on June the 28th, 2021 and sent to Minister Alain. These are the three guidelines that we have tonight. For the reading of the resolution, Mrs. Turgeon Roy.
Beaucoup, Monsieur le Maire.
Thank you, Worship, that Council ratify the directives adopted at closed meetings of Council concerning the following issues. First, authorization to retain consulting service expropriation. Gemini adopted June the 8th, 2020. Second is purchase land parcel on Melanson Road, adopted March the 8th, 2021. And the third one is a signing authority letter, local governance reform adopted June the 28th, 2021. I so move, Your Worship. Moved by Councillor Turgeon Roy, seconded by Councillor Boutillier. On the question. No question. All those in favor of the resolution say aye. Contrary minded nay. Carried as presented. Now, for the item that was added, 10.1.3, Monsieur Melanson, you have in front of you a directive that the public municipal has the public to have a proof of vaccination in the next public meeting of the council. So that directive will be posted and we will inform the public to make sure to protect the members of council and the staff. For the council resolution, Monsieur Thibodeau.
Merci, Monsieur le Maire.
Your worship,
Le Conseil
the
examine
council
la vaccination
authorize its
publique
legal
des
counsel,
personnes désirant
the
entrer dans
people
la salle du
wishing
Parlement,
to
entre
come
autres,
into the
doivent
hall,
être requises
as well as all the sanitary,
Je
according
propose, Monsieur
for
le Maire.
I so move. So,
Proposé par le conseiller
moved by Councilor Thibodeau, seconded by
le conseiller Godet.
Councilor Godet.
Sur la question.
On the question.
Aucune question.
No question. All those in favor say aye.
Oui. L'avis contraire.
Contrary minded nay.
La résolution est adoptée telle que présentée.
Carried as presented.
Maintenant au 11.
Now, 11.1, bylaws. The bylaw C33 authorizing the city of Dieppe to permanently close London Street with to proceed the reading in its entirety, followed by third reading by title only. Who feels ready to read? You're so shy tonight. You're all shy in its entirety. Mrs. Godbout.
Merci, Monsieur le Maire.
Your worship, bylaw number C33, bylaw authorizing the city of Dieppe permanently close Lorraine Street. Be it enacted the city council of city of Dieppe, whereas section 10(1)(g)(2) that chapter 18 of the New-Brunswick statutes authorize the city council to make bylaw for municipal responses respecting the temporary and permanently closing of roads. And whereas the closing of Lawrence Street, as shown on the Schedule A, is to the advantage of the community, now therefore be it resolved that from the date of edition passing out, the mention in the Schedule A be permanently closed. And permanently, I so move on first reading in its entirety. Your worship, move after reading in its entirety by Mrs. Godbout, seconded by Councillor Brideau on the question.
Aucune question.
No question. All those in favor say aye.
De l'avis contraire,
Contrary minded, nay. So
excusez, l'arrêté C33
bylaw C33 is adopted as read in its entirety.
Dernière étape, évidemment.
And the last step,
Deuxième lecture,
third reading
actuellement
by title only. Once again, Ms. Brideau, your worship, bylaw number C33, a bylaw authorizing the city of Dieppe to permanently close Lawrence Street. I so move in third reading for adoption by council. Your worship, thank you. Moved by Mrs. Godbout, seconded by Councillor Brideau on the question.
aucune question.
No question. All those in favor say aye.
De l'avis contraire,
Contrary minded, nay.
l'arrêté C33
Bylaw C33 is adopted in third and final reading.
Ceci dit, ça nous amène
This being said,
12 avis de
that
motion.
brings us to item 12, notice of motion.
Avis de motion.
We didn't receive any motion.
10,
Notice of motion number 13,
des membres du conseil.
inquiries and announcement by members of council. And I believe that we are at
Là-bas. Eux autres pointent de ce côté-là, puis eux autres vous pointez de ce côté-là. OK.
some points on one side. Mrs. Godbout, you have the floor. Floor is yours. Thank you. I have two things to mention tonight. First one, as to that with the Uni Center, it's becoming very popular. It's being used. It's a pleasure to see a good use of that. Mine, and I get games, but one thing was noticed by many people with seeing that on several occasions we have a practice without anybody being on leaving seats empty while the car is on IGA, why they're less accommodating. There's a lack of space for spectators. Parents have to stand up. It's unfortunate to see how this one association distributed. The schedule of competition is well known. My reflection, I thought that maybe there were different things could be done between the community organization who use uni so that residents can have better experience of the use of the center when they are spectators. Of course, when we play hockey or like it, and the surface of the ice are very nice, but I think about the spectators who are using it. If the Uni Center could help our community association in their communication among themselves so that our citizens can have a better experience as a spectator. I don't know if it's something that we could help our people with. Mr. Manager, the question that's of you. We'll receive the question. I have a second point. I want to share with the council that last week the CBC published a report indicating that Councillor from Moncton made poor remark about Carol Chan. Mrs. Chan sits on the Committee of Promotion of Democracy with the City of Moncton. A complaint is under investigation pursuant to their bylaw about uh, a code. I leave it to the City of Moncton to look to remedy the situation, but I want to publicly signal a word of encouragement to that volunteer. For those who don't know her, Mrs. Chang was candidate this summer the president of the Green Party of Canada. She was a candidate of the provincial government. She practiced law in New Brunswick for many years. She was a founding member of the Democracy Here. She's a member of the board of directors of the Fry Festival. Her experience bring a lot of value. Her devotion to the community is an example, and I thank her for her community leadership, provincial and national, including uh, democracy and inclusion. This situation, in my opinion, goes to like that who pleads for tolerance and equality. This passage came in my hands while I was thinking about the problem, and here's the passage. Our miserable is such that those who work on uh, bad bad road ways through the stones at those a community mountain in Dieppe are really benefited from great people like her. The events of this last week remind me always to listen to our citizens that we serve and the volunteer who serve us on committees. I leave you with these reflections.
Merci.
Thank
Vous
you.
savez,
As you know,
le conseil municipal de Moncton
Municipal Council of Moncton
ont pris une décision à cet
have
égard
taken a
et ont
decision,
fait
and
appeler un conseiller, un conseiller
it was
comme tel pour faire une
sent to the
expertise
council
et
to study
merci
the
de
issue.
l'avoir
And thank you
soulevé ici publiquement.
for raising
Je
it
pense qu'il y
publicly
a
here.
toujours des leçons à tirer
I
de
think
voir
there are always lessons to be had by each one of us.
je pense que je vais arrêter là
Yes,
parce que
I'll stop there
donner
because
mon expérience passée avec
considering my past
celui qui se
experience
traite
with the
soulever
person who's being investigated, I better shut up. And it's the support
absolument,
to our volunteer. Yes, absolutely.
absolument.
I want to thank our
Merci beaucoup.
volunteer. Absolutely. Thank you very
Monsieur le
much.
libéral,
On that,
Madame Turgeon-Roy.
Mrs. Turgeon-Roy,
Moi, ce que je voulais faire aujourd'hui, c'est
what I want
lancer
to
un petit
do
coup de
to,
cœur à des
is to
résidentes de Dieppe.
mention to
J'ai eu
residents of
l'occasion
Dieppe,
de faire
I've
un
had the
dévotionnel
opportunity with
samedi
the
à
worship
Untitled
Saturday. I had the
Chapter
pleasure
avec
of
les deux
walking
spotteuses,
with
Sophie et
the
Annie. C'est
runners.
deux femmes
They're
extraordinaires,
two
deux personnes de
fantastic
Dieppe,
women, two citizens of Dieppe,
extraordinaires,
Mrs. Doucette
ainsi que Caroline Benoît,
Ashelaski
se sont
and
donné le
Caroline
défi
Benoit. They gave
durant le
themselves the
cadre de la
challenge in
pandémie
2021 within the
de marcher
pandemic
101
to walk
communautés de femmes du New-Brunswick
101 community of New
et
Brunswick.
ont
They've
terminé. On a
almost
eu l'occasion de faire
completed
avec eux. Ils
them
faisaient
all.
partie
We
de
had
Dieppe
an
samedi.
opportunity to walk
Leur
with them in
mission
Dieppe
commun
Saturday.
est vraiment de faire de
The
la
ambition
promotion et une
is to
sensibilisation à
promote
une bonne
and
marche mentale.
sensitization
Et
to a
bravo
good mental
pour
health.
leur pratique
Congratulations.
exceptionnelle à ces deux femmes
I could,
extraordinaires,
I,
pour moi, personnellement.
I throw my hat
Merci,
to these two women. Monsieur Thibodeau
merci
is
infiniment.
next. Thank you, Worship.
Deux choses. La première, c'est
I have two things. The first
un
one,
citoyen
a citizen,
âgé qui m'a approché
a
au
senior citizen
sujet d'une
approached me
piste cyclable
about the
qu'il
bicycle trail.
fait beaucoup de cyclisme. Et
He
il me disait
does a
que
lot of
parfois, avec les
bicycling, and he said when the city
graviers, parfois il y a
puts
des
some new
endroits
gravel, sometimes they
très,
put
très
it too
dangereux.
thick and it becomes dangerous
L'eau se promène dans les
because
pistes.
the wheels,
Il me
can
disait
get
aussi
stuck
que
in the
les
gravel.
pistes sont déjà
He was
assez
saying
dures. Vous allez
the
avoir
trail are
de
already hard enough. You
l'eau
really don't
glacée
need to
sur
put too much gravel. I know. If we put some, we should not
C'est
put
le
it
deuxième
too
point.
thick. The second point
À la main,
is
j'ai déjà entendu des marcheurs qui disaient que les
walkers
cyclistes
who said
sonnaient sur leur
that
bicyclette.
bicycle
Ça les surprenait un peu.
don't have horn
Bien,
or
il me
bells,
dit que
and it surprised him.
la
And
bicyclette,
he said,
quand les jeunes
with
arrivent
a bicycle, when young
à côté d'eux,
people
ils ne peuvent pas s'arrêter.
go by them quickly with no
C'est
bells,
intimidant aussi.
really, it's
Alors,
nerve-wracking.
je pense que pour la
So
question des sonnettes,
I think as for the
c'est
question of
peut-être un peu trop tard,
bells,
mais l'an prochain,
maybe it's a little late, but
une
next year,
campagne de sensibilisation
maybe we should organize in the spring
sonnette
since
qui
an
sont
awareness
sensibilisés.
campaign
Il y a une sonnette
and
sur toutes les bicyclettes.
maybe we should make it compulsory to have a bell on the bicycle. This year we had a campaign. We would give bells. We had a promotion campaign that encouraged people to install one on their bicycle to cohabit more safely on our trail. That was organized by the communication department. I don't have the results on the success of how many bells we gave out, but we organized that campaign. Yes, there's a lot of education to be made, whether it's on the road. The question of cohabitation need all kinds of awareness campaign. Organize the message is retained. Thank you. I must have missed something. I was not aware that we had a campaign. It's hard to play golf and drive a bicycle. Joke. My second point this Thursday is Remembrance Day, a day of respect for sacrifice of veterans. So please be respectful and let's not forget them. Lest we forget. That's all, your worship. Thank you, Monsieur Brideau. Thank you, your worship. An item that I want to mention is to say thank you to all the employees who agreed to come back and work in uh, Habitat for Humanity. We spent the day, we painted the inside of the first story of the house, and I congratulate the employees. It was a good experience. It's mission accomplished.
Merci.
Thank you,
Madame Boudreau.
Mrs. Boudreau.
Merci, Monsieur le maire.
Thank you, Your
J'ai
worship.
juste un message
I
ce
have
soir
one message tonight.
concernant
It
la
has to
présentation
do with the
du théâtre musical
presentation of the musical theater melody of Happiness, the Sound of Music, that will be presented at the Capitol Theater. Buy your tickets. They're on sale now. This year it will be different. It will add some francophone interpretation to the production, so it's a bilingual undertaking. I would like to mention the presence of Dieppe citizens who are involved. People original Mélanie Leblanc and Véronique Hébert and the president Mia Kinga and Justin Jaye.
Bien.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Madame Le Boutier.
Mr. Boutier, thank you, worship.
J'aimerais dernièrement, là, j'ai recommencé au
Recently,
Nouveau-Brunswick et
I started at the Aquatic
plusieurs
Center, and
personnes, des utilisateurs,
some persons, some users asked me if we could
de changer
look
d'une
to
possibilité de changer
change the
l'enseigne
possibility of changing the
vraiment une salle
signs.
de bain, une salle
We
d'attente,
have
une salle
three bedroom, a family
pour les
room,
enfants. Je
one
voulais voir
woman,
si
children, and one
un
men.
âge limite
And
ou
see if we could not have a minimum age. We require
l'adulte avec un
the
bébé
adult
dans la
with a
salle.
baby in the family room.
Améliorer
Why?
vraiment
To
l'expérience
improve the experience,
en adulte parce que
the adult
j'ai
people, because we find
changer leur
sometimes
salle, etc.
when we change a diaper in the room, well,
En même temps, nous avons des salles
it's
spécifiques
nature, and we have
familiales.
specific family rooms
Je voulais vous
for
faire le message. Puis également, je pense
do
que
that. I wanted to
c'est une bonne idée aussi
share the message, and it's a good
d'autres
idea.
endroits ils l'ont.
Elsewhere they have
Je
it,
voulais vous en
and
faire part.
I just wanted to share with you.
Les autres, mais j'aimerais féliciter Mathieu Martin
I
parce
want to
que
congratulate
vendredi,
Mathieu
on
Martin
l'a vu. Et
on the
puis aussi,
weekend.
c'est juste une excuse si j'en oublie, mais
This is an
chez
excuse
nous,
if I
les
forget.
Barbiers, ils ont gagné la bannière provinciale.
They won the provincial banners and the football. They made it to the final. Two francophone school. I don't know if it's a first, but it's good.
J'aimerais aussi, je sais pas
I
si
would
vous
also
avez
like, I
vu
don't know
récemment,
if they saw recently,
entrepreneur
one of our
Patrice Cormier a
businesswomen,
été
Paris Cormier,
nommé comme deuxième
her people were appointed as a second time the International Broker Award,
en Amérique.
number one in North America.
Et, félicitations, c'est incroyable.
Congratulations,
Et
it's
ainsi
incredible.
de suite. Et aussi, ben, la même
And
chose que
also,
j'aimerais
I would
assurer que
like to make sure
vous allez parler le 11 novembre.
on November the
On va
11th,
l'avoir en ligne. Je pense que la
they will be
cérémonie aura lieu
online. The ceremony will be online.
virtuellement et je pense qu'elle
in the city, and I think they've started already to publish. Let's support our veterans. We have an association in Dieppe that is very active, and we wish they're doing great things. That's all for me. Thank you, Monsieur Godet.
Oui, merci, Monsieur le maire.
Thank
Moi,
you,
j'ai
Your
rien
Worship.
à ajouter.
I have nothing to add. That's it. Thank you.
Alors, moi non plus, j'ai rien à
Neither
ajouter.
do I. I
Alors,
have nothing to add
merci
either.
pour votre
Thank you for your
travail, merci pour votre
work.
implication
Thank you
communautaire
for
dans le
your
centre.
community involvement.
Oui, je crois que peut-être je devrais parler de
Maybe
quelques
I should
préparations
talk
que
about
les gens de
the
communication sont en train de préparer quelques
people, the
choses
communication people are preparing
pour
something
informer les citoyens. Je crois que
to inform the
vous avez
citizen.
déjà affiché quelque chose.
Well, I had
La ville
already
de Dieppe a
posted
été
something. The city
reconnue
of Dieppe was recognized
par la ville de
by
Québec
the
qui
city
donne
of
annuellement
Quebec,
un prix
who give on a yearly basis
à un organisme
an award to an
qui est une
organization
organisation
each
qui
year
s'appelle le prix
that is
du
called
3 juillet
July the 3rd Award,
1608.
1608.
Je peux être certain
Ju-
de pas
July the 3rd,
mélanger la date
1608. I don't want to mix up the dates,
Et
but
puis, ça, c'était
and
pour les
essentially
organisations qui
it's meant for
promotent le français,
organization who
qui
promote
parlent la
French
défense du français.
and defends
Alors, c'est un
French.
prix, c'est assez exceptionnel que la
It's
ville de
quite
Dieppe
exceptional
ait
that the city
reçu
of
ce
Dieppe
prix-là.
received
J'ai
that
été
award.
recommandé pour
That
ça
prize
par
we
un
were
professeur de
recommended
l'Université de Moncton,
by a professor of the University of
M.
Moncton,
Leblanc,
Monsieur
que je
Mac
remercie
Leblanc,
encore une fois.
who I want to
Euh,
thank
Lorsque
once
le nom
again.
avait été soumis,
When the name was submitted,
nous, de toute façon, on n'en savait rien.
we knew nothing about
J'ai
it.
reçu un courriel
I
qui
received an
disait
email
qu'on devait se présenter à
informing us that we
Dieppe
should
si on
go
voulait
to
à Québec
receive
la
that
semaine
prize in
passée.
Quebec last week,
Ce que j'ai fait évidemment, puis
which I
j'ai très
did,
hâte qu'on puisse afficher
and I can't
comme
wait
tel
that we can
cette sculpture
post the sign or the
en
award
trois
as such.
dimensions,
It's a sculpture in three or four dimension, even five maybe,
qui
and
demeure
it's
une
really
œuvre d'art
a beautiful
pour laquelle
gold
on n'a
work
pas de place tout de suite. Il va falloir une
where we don't have
spéciale.
a special place. We'll have to find a special place to hang it.
C'est intéressant.
It's quite an
Merci
interesting
beaucoup.
sculpture, but all that to say that
La ville de Dieppe, pour moi, j'étais très fier
city of
d'être
Dieppe,
là.
I was very proud to be there in Quebec
Il
and
y
to
avait une
receive that
présentation aussi
award. There
pour
was a
reconnaître
presentation
les gens
also to
qui
recognize
travaillent
people
dans le
who
milieu de la
have worked
francophonie
in
avec
the
le président
Francophonie environment. A good example
qui est
is a lady who is the president
des
of
enseignants et
the
enseignantes francophones des
Francophone
États-Unis. Alors,
Teachers Association of
de
USA,
l'Illinois.
a lady from Illinois
Évidemment, son
who
organisation.
was representing her
Comme ça,
organization. They
des gens
recognize like that
qui ont
people
travaillé dans la
who
francophonie
have
au
worked in
Québec
Francophonie,
dans la
either as
recherche.
professors or in
L'organisation de
research.
recherche qui avait
There
gagné
was a research organization who won the same
l'année passée.
award
C'est un autre
last year, the same that she won this year. There were four or five persons from Dieppe who were there on location to support friends or colleagues. So
J'ai signé que d'ailleurs que Serge Roussel, qui est maintenant
Serge
doyen
Roussel
de
was now the
droit
dean of
a été
the
reconnu
law
lui
faculty, was
pour son
recognized
travail
for
au cours
his work
des dernières années, son
during the
implication
last few years, his involvement
son travail de recherche,
as much in research,
son travail
obviously his work
comme membre de la
as
législature
a
de
member of the
New-Brunswick.
Legislative Assembly of New
C'était une bonne
Brunswick.
expérience que
It's a
j'ai
good experience
j'ai bien aimé de
that
représenter la
I
ville. C'était
like
toujours
very much to represent the
plaisant
city. So it was a pleasure to represent the city of Dieppe.
puis des fois,
And
on a une petite gêne
sometimes we're a little bit shy.
les
We don't
papiers.
like to brag ourselves,
On
but
doit
I think that we have to learn when to do it and how to do it better.
une ville
We
modèle
are a
civile
model
pour
city
bien d'autres personnes.
for
Et
many
souvent,
other
les
people, persons, and
difficiles
sometimes
non plus quand
it's
on
not a
est
bad thing.
l'homme est
In
dur
my
sur les
opinion,
hommes.
sometimes we're hard on
Cherche toujours
ourselves
l'excellence. Puis
because we look for excellence all the time, and
certain niveau
when we have reached a certain level, we have to recognize it. Let's not be shy. That being said, thank you for the reminder
Bonne fête soirée à
and
tous.
good evening, everybody.